afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Friday edition of On Cue coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the remote SR 1029 FM. The Game Studios. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. And as always, very easy to find us. We are on multiple platforms, the YouTube channel, Rumble, Kicks. Check it out. SR 1029 FM, the game as well. Do not forget to download the AUDACY app and search Coastal Sports Digital Network. We are very live and coming in hot on X as well. Hope everyone had a wonderful Sports Thursday. You are enjoying your 2nd of January 2026. How about that? Get in on the conversation. Very easy to do on X. You can just hashtag on cue, or as many of you guys do, you can chime in on the YouTube channel on this What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue. What made you say what the frig this week in the world of sports? And for those who we didn't get a chance to say Happy New Year to on Tuesday and Wednesday show, and a little rapid fire yesterday, dropping some new editions of Overseas Dimes. Happy New Year, and I hope everyone will have a prosperous 2026. We aired the grievances earlier in the week. But man, we have an absolutely, when I just say busy show as far as what's going on with the NFL. This is a must watch week 18. Our picks. I'm not going to pat myself on the back like I typically do, but I'll do a half a pat while I'm drinking my fresh roasted coffee. We nailed these college football playoff picks. You guys mocked me the other day when I said Miami was going to win by more than a touchdown, 24-14. You mocked me and Nick Costco when we said Indiana was going to roll over gutless Alabama, and they did. Now, Georgia, I did pick. We played the over on that one. We're fine with that. And then quack, 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 Oregon. Thought Texas Tech was going to make it close, but we took Oregon and the points as well. So we'll dive into a lot of college football. Again, the NFL got to take a center stage too, because we've got so many storylines this weekend in the NFL. And this is kind of where you hang your hat. Week 18, we know about the teams that are basically rolled over like a bunch of dogs. We know about the teams that are already thinking about making the aforementioned business decisions, right, and planning for the holidays. We know about the teams that are going to be looking for a new head coach come Black Monday. But man, you've got NFC, AFC, home field advantage, right, implications with the top seed on the line. You have AFC North winning in. You have the drama that is the AFC South. How about that? Between the Texans and the Jags. You got the Eagles. Should we or not? Should we rest players? You got the Chargers resting players. How that is going to benefit a team like the Denver Broncos. And oh, by the way, let's also remember we have updated NFL MVP odds. And it comes down to, I think, 3. And we've got a dark horse in that race. Hello, Jacksonville. So we've got a lot to get into. I do want to start, though, and John Bueller is going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. I want to start with the college football, though, because, Miami defensively did what we thought they were going to do on Wednesday, and they upend Ohio State. Yesterday, and I mentioned this on Wednesday's show with Costco, I felt if Alabama could not run the football, they were going to be in trouble. Now, obviously, Indiana jumps out to that big lead, 17-0, going into the locker room. But Alabama could not run the football at all. And we know just how good that Indiana defense is. They are absolutely legit. And Alabama did not even show up. I mean, you want to talk about a cocky team getting their you-know-what, their fannies handed to them and humbled. That's Alabama. Now, I know what's going to happen. Everyone's going to look at Mendoza, 14 of 16, put up 192, 3 touchdowns. You really didn't need him to do anything, mind you. They were also able to run the football for over 215 yards at 4.3 a clip. Indiana's legit. Indiana's real. Indiana can win it all. Indiana can win it all. That's how good Indiana is. And I was shocked at how bad Alabama absolutely rolled over. They gave you absolutely no effort. Talk about a gutless performance by Alabama. That's as gutless as you can get. And they already panicked early in that game, going for it. Their second possession. Everything else was a punt, 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 fumble, punt, punt, punt. I mean, I can't recall a time where the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Roll Tide and the Alabama faithful who've been friggin' quiet over the last 24 to 48 hours, you got nothing to say. You got absolutely nothing to say. You got absolutely steamboated. You got just woodshed. I mean, unbelievable. And I'll tell you something else. If you're talking about, domination, what are you taking away from that win by Indiana in the CFP quarterfinal? Everyone will sit there and say now, Mendoza, this is the narrative. Mendoza is that guy. Mendoza is that guy. Now, if he can leave Indiana to a national championship, we already know he's going to be the first or second quarterback taken. And this kid, what makes him stand out is he's got this innate ability and knack for extending plays with his legs. And I think that to me is going to be dangerous going forward. The 21-yard pass to Becker was ridiculous. He's got a clean pocket to work with. It looked like it would easily sail over Becker's head, right? The receiver extended to play to give him time to get that lead. Mendoza does the rest, and boom. I mean, it was a thing of beauty, right? And the defense is elite. They cannot be underestimated. That defense is absolutely lights out. They can get to the quarterback. They got a strong pass rush. They force turnovers. And oh, by the way, they limit drives. And they had that huge fourth down stop in the second quarter. And to me, that's Alabama panicking right away because they knew they were going to be in for a long haul. Indiana is flat out legit. They are flat out legit. You had, and again, it's funny in college football, right? You're watching Ole Miss and Georgia, which was a fascinating game. We can talk about the officiating. You can talk about special teams. You can talk about the field goal late. That game boils down to a couple things. It boils down to a couple things. The Ole Miss quarterback, Georgia really didn't have any answers. And I thought Georgia coming into this game, they needed to make stops on third down. They needed to make some stops. They needed to force multiple turnovers. They were not able to do that. Ole Miss racks up close to 500 yards of total offense. And again, when you're 5, 6, 7 of 14 from third down, and then your opposition is 3 and 13 and they can't stop you, that's kind of the bugaboo for Georgia. A little surprising, but we love the over in that one, the total. But that's a hell of a win for Ole Miss, which, the more and this is why it's actually funny when you think about it, right? So this win, and it was a shocking win, I think people will say, it comes with the Lane Kiffin LSU drama. So take that. And now you got all these assistants that are in flux right now as they advance. But what's crazy is this clown earns $500K bonus because of the win. I mean, unbelievable. You know what? Get out of here, you rat. We don't need you. We're going to try to win it all as well. So that was a fun game to watch. That was a fascinating game. It was an entertaining game. The Oregon-Texas Tech game really didn't leave anything to be desired. I thought Miami defensively lights out the other day. Absolutely lights out. So this is where we're at right now in college football. This is where we're at. I mean, if you think about how you're breaking it down, you got number 5 Oregon taking on number 1 Indiana. Then you got Ole Miss taking on Miami, Miami, mind you. And then the winners of those semifinal games will play in the national championship. So we'll get your thoughts on college football. And, again, I know there's going to be the cynics and there's going to be the critics that are coming out after the fact because it's very easy to do. You and I both know it. But it's crazy now with the transfer portal, how it's going to work for some of these teams and universities going forward. But that's a hell of a win yesterday from Indiana. Impressive win by Miami. Nice win by Oregon. And then just a crazy win and a wild one by Ole Miss. So we'll get your thoughts on college football. Then you have the NFL. And the NFL, they set it up perfectly. The NFL sets it up perfectly because you're coming down to the final week of the season. And now you've got drama all over the place. You've got drama all over the place. Lamar Jackson's going to give it a go. Is this going to be Aaron Rodgers' last game as a pro? Jacksonville has an outside shot of getting home field. They can also drop. New England already wins the AFC East, but they're vying for home field. Denver's in line right now. The Chargers basically bailing out the Denver Broncos by resting players. The Eagles, we know they're going to rest some players as well. They had an opportunity to grab that 2 seed. It's still there, which we'll get into. I mentioned AFC North, NFC South, Carolina, and then Tampa Bay. And then the drama will be on Monday. The drama will be on Monday with Black Monday, where we know there's going to be multiple teams that are firing their head coach and guys are going to be looking for a job. But it's laid out. It's laid out perfectly. Tomorrow, Panthers and the Bucks. The winner gets, obviously, their crown NFC South. And then, DVR record this game. It's going to be a monster game. It's going to be a monster game. Seattle and the 49ers. Home field advantage in the NFC is at stake. That is going to be a ridiculous contest. I'll tell you right now, I would not want to go to Seattle come January. I don't want to go to San Fran come January. That's going to be a hell of a contest. Myles Garrett, half a sack away from breaking Watt and Straham's record. So you got an opportunity with the Browns and Cincinnati. I mentioned some of these other teams are playing out the string. Everything else is seeding. Everything else is seeding. And I also believe because now Drake May has leapt over Matthew Stafford because of his performance the last time out, and then Stafford struggling a little bit against Atlanta. You've got those two for the MVP. And I also believe Trevor Lawrence and Christian McCaffrey should be in the conversation. They should be in the conversation. I know that Drake May has jumped over Stafford, and that's what happens when one quarterback has an exceptional showing and the other quarterback struggles, and that's exactly what we saw. So we'll dive into that. And then, interesting news coming out of Miami that they're hiring Troy Aikman to be a consultant for the Miami Dolphins. So a lot of NFL, and as I said, it's a perfect time. It's a perfect time. There's so much at stake. And then the Giants, the Jets, playing out the string. If Baltimore loses, what does the future hold for Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson? If the Steelers lose, what's the future for Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin? Right now, updated MVP odds. Drake May has jumped Stafford considerably. Right now, in the driver's seat, minus 295. Stafford plus 225. Trevor Lawrence at a whopping plus 20,000, and McCaffrey at a whopping plus 30,000. He's about $110 receiving yards away from having a 1,000 yard season, rushing and receiving, already over 2,000 yards from scrimmage. So we're going to open it up 14 past 4 o'clock hour. As I mentioned, we're all over the place platforms today. Get social with us on X, IG, at Rich Quinones, TikTok, Rich Quinones Mike. We are on Kicks. We're on LinkedIn. We're on X. We're on the multiple YouTube channels. And we're also on Rumble as well. Let's see what you guys have to say on a What the Frig Friday edition of On Q. How about this? Chiming in as only if he can. New headphones, who this? He 12 man, Heisman, Steeler Nation, Duval, a.k.a. also known as Vince, chiming in first. Q, let's start with, did Bama quit or was it just my lying eyes? Saw Simpson tell the trainer after a warm-up throw, I can't do it in the playoffs. Fair or foul? Foul, in my opinion. Gotta tough it out. Yeah, they quit. They quit. You want the eye test? They flat out quit yesterday. They flat out quit. They rolled over. They got punched in the mouth. That game was lost. I didn't think they were going to win the game, but that game was lost when they didn't convert that 4th down early on in the game. I thought it was a panic move. I really did. You realize that possessions, you have to kind of consider, we always talk about situational football and just, how to play it out. You saw a team yesterday that knew they had absolutely no shot at winning that game. This is a team that scores 34 against Oklahoma, and then they score 3 against Indiana. Now, Indiana's defense is great, but you mean to tell me Alabama couldn't muster any type of offense? I mean, look, Simpson can't go. Mack comes in. They really couldn't move the football. I mean, they just couldn't, and they couldn't run the football. And that was one of the problems. They could not get down in distance. They could not get in manageable down in distance. And you can't get in manageable down in distance. You're going to have a hard time winning a football game against a team defensively as good as Indiana. They had a 4th and 14 from from Indiana's 41. Um, um, that was a panic to me. That was a panic to me. Right? They had the 4th and I'm sorry. That's the second drive. Forgive me. The second drive. Obviously, you're gonna punt there. It was the second drive. That was a 4th and 1 from the 34, and I thought it was a little bit of a panic. I know you want to be aggressive, but you also have to realize that if you give the ball right back to Indiana, their offense can go uh, fairly fast. They can go 3-4 plays. Now they got aided by a 10-yard penalty, but then you had a 21-yard run, and then you had the 21-yard touchdown pass, and they were up 7-0, and they just never looked back. In a game like that, if you're Alabama, you want points first, but they flat out quit. Absolutely. They got punched in the mouth. And a lot of times, these teams that get punched in the mouth, they don't know how to respond. They just don't. And we saw it yesterday, and that's embarrassing. I mean, that is a no-show at the finest. Goes to Luca Brazzi. Happy New Year. Right back at you, brother. Appreciate that. Does Q have any New Year's resolution? No more spite picking. No, we don't even listen. We don't even have to go that route. You know what? Because spite picking is always going to be there. Brought to you by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off. Use the promo code. New Year's resolution is to do better at reading the room. Wow, I think it's long overdue. Your inability to read the room has been a problem. It's been a problem, and I'm not the only one. The listeners have seen it, the commenters have seen it, the guys that engage have seen it, the corporation sees it. We'll give you a pass to Luca Brazzi. We'll give you a pass, even though my NIL deal, name, image, and likeness on your YouTube channel. I'll still allow that though. No spite picking. No spite picking. Sarge chimes in Q. Alabama absolutely rolled over, but let's get to it. Do my Raiders lose? Yes. Yeah. So this is, again, you're at this point of the NFL season, regular season finale. Teams are playing out the string. These teams have nothing to play for. The Raiders pretty much showed you without showing you that they're making business decisions. They want the top overall draft pick. Now they get Kansas City that's throwing in a third string quarterback with no Mahomes, no Gardner Minshew. But the Raiders, I don't see the Raiders winning this football game. The only way I see this is if, maybe there's a rumbling or grumbling that it could be Pete Carroll's last game. Well, are the players going to go out and play hard for him? Or they're thinking to themselves, so this guy's not even going to be around, right? When we pick number 1 or number 2. Like it's pretty evident right now. Raiders, Jets, Giants. That's it. That's it. And because the Giants beat the Raiders, the Giants need some help. The Raiders right now, they are in position. Their chance to earn the number 1 overall draft pick sits at 90%. The Jets, believe it or not, for the top 5 is 91, and the Giants are right there as well, 67. So the Giants, they'll probably lose to Dallas, most likely. They'll finish with 3 wins. I told you in August, this team was going to win 3 or 4 games, and you guys still berated me. You guys got on me. I told you it was a 4-win team at best. Now they will select top 5 again. Tennessee should have a high draft pick, should Arizona and Cleveland as well. But yeah, I don't see the Raiders putting up any fight. And that's kind of going to be the theme of this weekend with some of these teams. I don't see the Giants putting up much of a fight. That stadium's going to be overrun by Dallas fans. I don't see the Jets putting up any type of fight, even though, Josh Allen is banged up and the Bills are thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to have Josh Allen out there for a half, uh, get a 17-3 lead? The Jets are going to roll over and then go to Trubinsky. And that's where the playoff seedings really start to come about. And you get you get into a situation against, teams that are rolling over and teams that have nothing to play for. So it's like, okay, I want to rest my guys. Do I want to regroup? The way the NFL playoff picture is shaking out, some of the games we think would not be meaningful are absolutely meaningful because brackets are still in play. Brackets are still in play. And you want to try to get a 2 seed as opposed to a 3 seed. So look, Denver's a win away from grabbing the number 1 spot, number 1 seed in the AFC. The Chargers, they're sitting several of their starters. So if Denver can't go out and take care of the Chargers, who are sitting Herbert, who's banged up, then they don't deserve to get home field advantage. Now, the Pats could turn around. They can also grab the number 1 seed in the AFC. That's if Denver, for some inexplicable reason, beyond explanation, loses, loses. And the Pats get a win over the Miami Dolphins that I believe the Patriots are going to blow them out, because I also believe Drake May wants to put up gaudy numbers to lock in the MVP. Jacksonville is technically in the mix, but they need a win and losses by both Denver and New England. So I don't believe that's happening. The Steelers take on the Ravens. I think this is forget about AFC North implications. This game could change the complexion of 2 franchises going forward, because the Steelers thought Aaron Rodgers, they were going to try to milk some life out of Aaron Rodgers. They were hoping, we're going to sign Aaron Rodgers, low risk, high reward. Let's get 3 years out of this guy. They're not going to. Now, if they lose this game, does it spell the end? Does Aaron Rodgers retire? Because Aaron Rodgers is such a goofy kind of cat. I believe he's got 1 foot out the door. And if you have 1 foot out the door, you might as well have 2 feet out the door. Just point me to the exit sign. If their offense struggles, he plays poorly, and they lose, you're going to start to hear now the noise grow a lot louder with Mike Tomlin. Would Mike Tomlin consider stepping away, recharging the battery, and then working in TV for a year and then come back and coach? Then the flip side of that is you have the Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh dynamic. And as much as the Ravens fans have trolled me over the last several weeks, I'm telling you right now, do not dismiss this notion. If the Baltimore Ravens go out and they lose this game on Sunday, and Lamar Jackson struggles, I mean, to me, the recipe to a win is pretty easy. Derrick Henry, 30-plus carries. But let's just say Pittsburgh stacks the box. They're shutting down Henry. Jackson, who's banged up, says, I'm 100%. I got to go. I got to make some plays. Okay, fine. He also gets the benefit of the doubt that this is a late Sunday game, a little more rest. But let's just say Lamar Jackson struggles. The noise coming out of Baltimore is going to be, you've gone far enough with Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. And as much as it's probably rubbed the Ravens fan the wrong way, I believe that if there's an offer on the table, if the Baltimore Ravens pick up the phone and it's the Jets, and the Jets say, we will give you multiple first-round picks in addition to, a second, 2 second, and a third, multiple first-round picks, the Ravens should do their due diligence, and they should think about it. They should. They should think about it. I really believe that. I believe the Jets have the assets and the availability. Now, I understand Lamar Jackson has a no trade clause. That means absolutely nothing to me. I think there is a disconnect within that organization right now from top to bottom with the franchise quarterback and the head coach. I really do. And more times than not, what typically happens is the player going to go or is the coach going to go? That's a dicey situation in Baltimore because you can make a case that Harbaugh is a Hall of Fame head coach. Now, some people don't think he's a very good head coach, but this guy has 175 wins. He's won a Super Bowl plus playoff games, close to what, a buck 80 in his career, a boatload of divisional titles, but he hasn't been able to take them past a certain point when it comes to the playoffs. Got to get to an AFC championship game. Got to get to a Super Bowl. You got to win it again with this nucleus. He has not been able to do that. So this is, to me, this game, for a lot of reasons, this AFC North game between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, I believe it's the most compelling game for these two franchises. I mean, there's about 10 different storylines in this game. I mean, you might get a 17, 18-year-old rivalry done, over, if one of these guys loses it and the other decides, I'm going to go in a different direction, or the franchise decides we're going to fire the head coach or we're going to trade off the franchise quarterback. I mean, there's so much appeal to this game. And it's one of the reasons I thought last game of the season, yeah, flex it, that's great. But man, the pressure on Lamar Jackson, there's no pressure on Aaron Rodgers. There really isn't. There's no pressure on Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers screwed themselves, or DK Metcalf screwed the Steelers when he got into a little tiff with the fan in the Detroit game. Because you lose him offensively, your offense is a totally different, it changes the whole complexion of your offense. It really does. JD chimes in Q. I'm agreeing with you. I think you can see a blockbuster deal. Is there any shot that you think the Raiders are in play? I'm telling you right now, I had people, when I posted this on TikTok, guys were like, that's idiotic. You're stupid. It's never going to happen. What the hell are you talking about? You're clueless. I'm telling you right now, any quarterback can be traded. Any player can get moved. If teams really want to get rid of you, they will find a way to get rid of you. So the Raiders need a quarterback. Lamar Jackson could be in play. Can you imagine Lamar Jackson going from the AFC North to the AFC West, and where that ultimately, that major upgrade with the Raiders? I'll tell you right now, Crosby's going to want to play. He's not going to want to go anywhere. To me, I think the Jets, it makes sense because of what they can offer to Baltimore. It just makes sense. I'm not trying to give you the speculation, the hot take, the oven mitts, the trade, the blockbuster deal. No, I'm just letting you know that, again, there's always going to be questions about his durability and maybe the maturity. And I think that's why Baltimore will feel their hand is going to be forced. How many players or former players or teammates of him, former teammates, have come out and said, good guy, but he's like a child in a big boy body? But you're talking about an MVP in Lamar Jackson. Any clear-cut generational talents in this year's NFL draft? I don't think so. You're talking about the quarterback position. Look, Mendoza to me is a very good quarterback, but I watched Andrew Luck in college. Andrew Luck was that, quote, generational quarterback. He was a generational quarterback. Mendoza's going to have his shot. The kid Moore's going to have his shot. I don't see a lot of talent from the quarterbacking position overall, mind you. I think it's a weak crop. It's a weak crop. I really do. The kid can play. Both of them can play. Don't get me wrong. But you're risking a lot. Remember, you're risking a lot when you're talking about drafting a quarterback number 1 overall. At least the Giants were able to see in a sample size that they had their franchise quarterback. He's got to learn to slide, but they've got their franchise quarterback. He can make plays. He's got a strong arm. He's a tough kid. He's athletic. He can make plays. He's got a little brash, a little bravado, a little swag, a little cockiness. Um, the Giants probably go defense. Maybe they go wide receiver to get him another weapon, right? But we already talked about the teams that need quarterbacks. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. Arizona, are they going to run it back with Brissett? Miami, what's Miami going to do? You know, Miami turns around and they hire Troy Aikman as a consultant, right? Now, ESPN came out, which is interesting. ESPN came out and said this role is not going to interfere with the broadcasting. So now Troy Aikman is going to consult with Miami when they're going to have their GM search, right? And it's funny because, how do I say this? Tom Brady has a dual role, right? Tom Brady, he's got skin in the game with the Raiders, and he's getting paid a substantial amount of money to be a Fox broadcaster. Well, Aikman and Buck have been around for how many years now? 20 plus. Aikman, obviously, one of your top 2 or 3 color analysts out there, Hall of Fame quarterback, making a lot of money. You know, Brady making a lot of money. I mean, Brady's primary gig with Fox is paying him $38 million per year, 20 games most. They got Aikman. And it's kind of much easier to analyze because the gig with the Dolphins is not going to directly impact his ESPN job because he's not going to be working any Dolphin games for the balance of the year. Now, if you go back in December, he worked a game, but it will be interesting to see how we look at this, the optics of perception, the national, the media, how we kind of gloss over this. Is there going to be a conflict of interest? I don't think there is. And the problem is you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You just can't. You just can't. I mean, the best approach for the NFL and these networks would be going forward. Listen, a broadcaster can't simultaneously work for a franchise, work for a team in any capacity. But like I said, you can't unring the bell. You can't. Whatever superlative you want to use. And put the genie back in the bottle. It doesn't matter. So these teams, they're going to go out and they're probably going to hire some of these broadcasters as consultants. Now, broadcasters, look, we do it. We chase checks, right? So it is what it is. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see the type of input that Troy Aikman gives to Miami going forward. And look, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, obviously, Marino, if you recall, everyone was talking about Marino with his stake, if you will, in the Miami Dolphins and kind of being, part, of that franchise. Because look, he's basically been a special advisor, right? I mean, that's a glorified, hey, man, call me up if you need some help. He's been doing that for 10 years. And then he was also part of that search committee, right? So now all of a sudden he works with Aikman, Stephen Ross. We got to bring a GM. But I think it's a smart move to bring in a guy like Troy Aikman as a consultant. I really do. And listen, they're going to go full speed ahead. I don't know what the Giants are going to do with Joe Shane. Your guess is as good as mine. I can't even answer. Kevin, Tom, Matt, and Brick. I don't know. So don't ask me. I have no idea. Let it play out. The first thing is if they go out and they don't even show up against the Dallas Cowboys, you think Shane's going to get fired on Monday? I don't see that happening. I think the Giants will go back. Mara, Tish, they'll sit there, and what they'll do is they'll bring in Joe Shane. Okay, tell me your plan. How far along are we, right? Where's the plan? If I don't know the plan, if we can't envision the plan, if we don't feel comfortable with the plan, then maybe, we will look in a different direction. Can you see Lamar approving a trade anywhere? He loves playing in Baltimore, and after his last free agency, I don't know that he trusts any other organization treating him fairly. End of the day, Baltimore did pay. But remember, what hurt Lamar Jackson? What has hurt Lamar Jackson in the past? Lamar Jackson negotiates his own contracts. Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent. So when you're talking about, well, I'm not getting fair value, right? I don't have an agent. He negotiates his own contracts without a traditional agent. And sometimes the devil is in the details. NFL executives have come out and said, no, man, we don't want to deal with the player, right? We don't want to deal with him. And again, let's go back. You know, the numbers, I mentioned this, I think, when the Jets were pursuing Rodgers a couple years ago. And I was, screaming at the mountaintop that they need to go and get Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, because he hasn't hired an agent, it's probably cost him about $35 to $40 million in his playing career. Because maximum percentage of a deal is like 3%. And if you go back to 2021, Lamar Jackson was eligible for a new contract. And again, we're going on the assumption, right? But he wanted to bet on himself. And then what happened the next offseason? Who got paid? Cleveland paid Deshaun Watson. $300-something odd million guaranteed. Right? Josh Allen got paid. So sometimes you can bet on yourself, but sometimes you also need an agent to represent you. You need someone to make the call. GMs, they don't want to deal with the headache of a player. That's why you have an agent. And that scared off some teams. And I think it did not give him that bargaining chip. And as far as the no trade clause, I understand it and I get it. But sometimes players will waive that if they really want out. Maybe Lamar Jackson saying to himself, you know what? Hey, man, they're not appreciating me. I'm 28. I'm a multiple-time MVP. I'm trying to play banged up. But, my coordinator and my head coach, they don't want to run the football with Derrick Henry. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't. He's got to go out. If he's healthy and he's got zero injury designation, okay, and he's 100%, then Lamar Jackson, when I come on the air Monday, Lamar Jackson has to have, I mean, if you were to say, Q, in a perfect world, give me the numbers right now. Well, I think Derrick Henry is going to run the hell out of the football. But let's just say the Steelers are stacking a box and they're forcing Lamar Jackson to throw the football. Lamar Jackson is going to have a vintage Lamar Jackson game. And a lot of times we see those games in September, October, November, but it pales in comparison what the quarterback does late in the season because he falters. That's just the reality. He comes up small in big spots. And I think he's a hell of a quarterback. But he hasn't had that type of season. Am I going to sit here and tell you I need 19 of 29 for 265 and 4 touchdowns? Hey, that would be great. But you need that vintage Lamar Jackson game where he's running around, keeping plays alive with his legs, looking down the field, slinging it all over, some RPOs, keeping it himself, rolling out, extending drives. You need that, Lamar Jackson, 20 of 28, 235, 9 carries for 65 yards and 3 total touchdowns. And you win the game. Because if Lamar Jackson goes out and has a stinker, if he stinks up the joint, then the buzz, the conversation, the topic of Lamar Jackson's on the block, all it's going to do is get heightened, is my point. That's all it's going to do. It's going to get heightened. And if I'm the Jets, a team that has a stockpile of draft picks, now that's also going on the caveat that Harbaugh's not going anywhere. That's why I think this game between these two teams, it can change the course of the AFC North going forward. Cincinnati, Burrow came out again, talking about that's the same old song. Joe Burrow is giving off Andrew Luck vibes. Now imagine if Cleveland gets their head out of their fanny, figures out what they're going to do. They've got a top 10 defense ready-made already. They get an offensive, they get another running back, a wide receiver. They figure out if they're going to stick with Sanders or not, bring in a head coach that can turn this thing around. They can be competitive next year. Meanwhile, the Steelers will have a bridge quarterback, maybe a new head coach. Baltimore won't have a franchise quarterback. And who knows what's going to happen in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. He might force his hand and pull a Carson Palmer. We don't know. So the whole, well, the guys are not. Hey, man, sometimes it gets to the point where you want a fresh start. And the Jets have a substantial amount of bullets in the chamber. That's all I'm saying. They've got equity. They've got equity. Man chimes in. What's up, people? Man. Best available players at the top of the draft will be defensive players who will draft best available and not just reach. Can't help but think Bain Jr. opposite Miles Garrett would be a scary mix. Defense is probably going to be the name of the game with the draft. And a lot of these teams we're talking about, they also understand. If you look around the NFL, what's been the most the constant this season in the NFL? These teams that are really scary, they got great defenses. New England, Jacksonville's defense coming on. Denver, Chicago's defense, the Houston Texans, Seattle, the Rams. So yeah, they're going to go more defensive heavy. Plus, what'll happen is you're going to flesh out these quarterbacks fast. You're going to flesh out these quarterbacks very fast because of these needy teams. You got 3 or 4 guys, well, really 2 or 3 that are going to go bang, 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 right? If the Raiders are sitting there at number 1 and the Raiders feel as though, and now think about this too, the markability. Now just follow me, right? The markability. You draft a kid like Fernando Mendoza and you stick him in Vegas. I mean, it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm, right? Kid speaks Spanish. Stick him in Vegas. He's Cuban descent. His grandparents moved from Cuba to Miami, right? But you've got Cubans down there. You've got Mexicans in Vegas. You got Spanish speaking, a charismatic kid, always giving the kudos to, Dios, God up there, right? Humble kid, knows how to play the part. And I think that goes a long way. So the Raiders believe they've grabbed their franchise quarterback. The Giants sit at 2. I think they're going to go wide receiver. I would love to see them get the kid from Ohio State, Tate. Now that pushes the Jets to number 3. We miss out on Mendoza. We miss out on Lamar Jackson. We're going to draft Dante Moore. You got a high upside passer. You got to process it quickly, which he can. You got natural arm talent now and a playmaking threat. But then to Vince's point, Tennessee's probably going to go defense. Washington's going to go defense. The Saints have to go defense. Cleveland's probably going to go offense. Because I think they need a kind of a run after the catch. I'll give you a name, the kid Tyson from Arizona State. The Chiefs have to go running back. They got to go offense. They need a running back. They can't do the running back by committee anymore. Cincinnati's got to go defense. Miami's probably going to be a mixed bag. Tampa's probably going to go defense. So, yeah, to your point, it's heavier on the defensive side. You got a couple quarterbacks and a couple offensive players, and that's it. No, Q. They proved they colluded on his last free agency. I'm sure he won't forget that. No. I know exactly what you're saying. Listen, but again, you can't sit there and say that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because he never had an agent. Okay? And you're coming at it the wrong way. I appreciate what you're saying, but you can't tell me they colluded because there's a long drawn contract negotiation and you had league pushback. And it was because of the Deshaun Watson deal. But he wound up signing that big extension in 2023. I'm telling you right now, man, don't gloss over this Lamar Jackson being traded idea. Don't. There's no proof, even though there's theories, right? And that's at this point, he signed a monster deal. I believe it was 4 or 5 years. I think it was 5 years for what, 260, 265? But if you have an agent, you don't have to worry about that. You let the agent do that. Colluded, conspired, blackball, dicey words. Start the new year off. Scott chimes in, Q with the playoffs essentially starting this week. Got me wondering who are the greatest NFL players who never seen a playoff game. Anyone come to mind? Greatest NFL players. Wow. I mean, we can talk about guys that never got to a Super Bowl or played in a Super Bowl, right? But you're talking greatest NFL players to not even have a, I mean, even Barry Sanders made it to an NFC championship game, right? You know, Riggins, Harris, Dorsett, Swan, Stallworth. I mean, if we're talking even somebody's all time great quarterbacks. I mean, Archie Manning was a solid quarterback. He never sniffed the playoffs. Tarkenton had those great runs with Minnesota, never won a Super Bowl. Um, you know, Joe Cap went to a Super Bowl, pretty all time great. If you're talking like championships or Super Bowl, that's one thing. Like one player, like Barry Sanders comes to mind, never made a Super Bowl, never went to the Super Bowl. Never had a Super Bowl appearance, I should say. Steve Largent is another one. The closest Steve Largent got to the Super Bowl was 1983 against the Raiders, and Seattle got waxed in that AFC title game. Myles Garrett might be that guy, right? But they made the playoffs a couple years ago, I believe. But Myles Garrett, chances of Cleveland making a deep run, getting to the Super Bowl. NFL has sprouted out great talent, some all-time talent. Some of these guys just never have an opportunity because they play on lousy teams. They languish for years on bad football teams. Even like the Kleckos, the Lions, the Gastineaus, they won some playoff games. Hell, they had an opportunity in 86 against your Cleveland Browns. But you had the roughing the passer penalty on Gastineau on the hit against Kozar, kept the drive alive late. And then, Mosley with a couple of those field goals late. I mean, you talk about heartbreaking losses for the New York Jets. I give you 1986. 1986. And what's really interesting, the Jets started the season 10-1. Paul McGuire came on the air on, I think it was NFL. I think it was with NBC at the time, maybe CBS. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. But he said when the Jets were 10-1, they were not going to win another game in the regular season. They proceeded to lose 5 straight games. They beat Kansas City in the wild card game. I remember that game like it was yesterday because Kansas City had a quarterback many, 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 many years ago. That was a guy that just loved to throw the football down the field. They had Bill Kinney, but in this game, he got hurt, and Todd Blackledge came in, had a couple bad picks, and Kansas City's offense didn't do anything. Pat Ryan was a beast. Freeman McNeil ran for like $150, and the Jets waxed Kansas City. But then you go to that divisional round. You go to that divisional round game against the Cleveland Browns. The Jets were leading that game. The Jets were leading that game. They were up 20-10. And then everything turned, and it was Mosley with the back-to-back field goals, obviously the one in OT. But you had some great players on that Jet team that never really had that deep run. I remember a couple of really good players on the Giants that never really had that deep, deep run. Same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles. All those years they put together those great defenses under Buddy Ryan. Never won a playoff game, right? I think it was until 92 with Reggie White, and they beat the Saints. These guys never even tasted the Super Bowl. I mean, some of them went on and they finished their careers with different teams. But the core, that nucleus, this is why, like, you're Baltimore. You got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. It's malpractice if Derrick Henry doesn't carry the football 25 to 30 times against the Steelers. That's a fireable offense. Like, if Derrick Henry has 10 touches based on what he's been able to do over the last several weeks, then I sit there and say, get the hell out of here, Harbaugh. Like your 17, 18-year-old run, it's done. It's done. You got a running back now that's starting to pick up steam. He is picking up steam right now. Go look at his numbers over the last month of the season. He's just been on fire. He had over 100 yards against Cincinnati, a $128 against New England, and I told you against Green Bay, run him in the ground, 36 carries for 216 and 4 touchdowns. Keep running him. It's not rocket science. Don't overanalyze it. Wear him down. Get him going downhill. Baltimore goes up 17-3 against Pittsburgh. That game's over. Aaron Rodgers isn't bringing them back. And you can thank DK Metcalf too because they don't have any offensive weapons. That game, San Francisco, the 49ers, Tampa, Carolina, Jacksonville, the Texans. I mean, we got some really marquee games over the weekend. We really do. 450 quick timeout. Got a lot of comments coming in. I want to rip through them as well. Don't forget hashtag on Q. We got some on X as well. We want to rip through them. Also on Kicks. Quick timeout. John Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour. College football, NFL, week 18. Also, I'm going to throw it out there for you guys right now. Look at these games this weekend. Give me your marquee game and or prediction. And when we come on the air on Monday, who's winning the NFL MVP? So ponder that. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, welcome back, everyone. Fast approaching 5 o'clock. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Also, as I mentioned, do me a favor, download the AUDACY app, please, 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 and search Coastal Sports Digital Network. You'll find me Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. We're also on Rumble, Kicks, X, multiple platforms. Let's keep the conversation going with some of the comments and let when you guys chime in. Michael chimes in. Broncos country. Let's ride. What else is new? Q, would you take Dart over Mendoza or more right now? Keep it 100%. Do I ever not keep it 100%? What do I do? Do I keep it like 75%? A little caffeinated? No, I'm keeping Dart. I'm keeping Dart. What? Why? This is what happens. It's like being like 18, 19-year-old kid. You guys fall in love so fast. It's what you guys do. You're going out, you're with your friends, you're at the club, you're at the bar, you're hitting on the blonde, you're trying to get her phone number, and then in walks the brunette, and all of a sudden you leave the poor blonde sitting there, hanging out with the bartender that's not shutting up, putting up bad jokes. I like Jackson Dart. I do. I really like Jackson Dart. I laid it out for you in August. If you guys remember, if you kept receipts, I laid it out for you. I figured 4 or 5 games. I wanted to start Jameis Winston over Russell Wilson. That you guys know for a fact. I was like, this is ridiculous. Russell Wilson's cooked. I don't care about 450 yards against Dallas. He can't even marinate. I got to see him sitting there getting ready for the ball drop. That's the most friggin' FaceTime he's had in New York since he signed with the Giants. I don't need to see that. Get the hell off my screen. Keep your wife on the screen, but you go shoot. Get out of here, little rat. I like what I've seen from Jackson Dart. I do. And I think Tracy's a good back. You get Scatterboot back. You're going to get Neighbors. You're going to draft a replacement for Hyatt and Slayton. You've got Robinson. You're going to have to pay him in the offseason. Theo Johnson is a good tight end. They've started to figure out their offensive line. Give me a coach that's an offensive-minded coach. I already laid it out for you. I would love for the Giants to figure out a way. Pry Flores out of Minnesota. Get him as defensive coordinator. I'm sorry. I don't want Antonio Pierce as a head coach. I have no problem with Minter, the coordinator from Green Bay. I even told you, San Diego, the coordinator from Green Bay too. I said McCarthy too. You want a guy that could steady the ship. So you bring in McCarthy, and he's won. He gets you to the playoffs. He can turn around. He's a culture builder, a franchise builder. That's what you want. And now you bring in a guy like Flores and you get the best out of that defense. You have to. You've got to get the defense healthy and the secondary figured out, but you've got some options. You've got some guys that can get to the quarterback. Carter's starting to come on. Lawrence is banged up. Maybe he's has a bounce back year. Burns is a friggin' all pro. So they've got playmakers. I believe they have their franchise quarterback. I was never all in on Daniel Jones. I wavered so much because Daniel Jones frustrated the hell out of me. I would always argue, I don't get it. In today's NFL, how do you have a quarterback not being able to throw for 25 touchdowns at this point of his career? Daniel Jones never gave me that. He had the one good year and he got rewarded for it and it blew up in their face. I'm fine with Jackson Dart. And remember, too, you're talking about first round money. He's not a top 5 draft pick. You're getting him on the cheap. I know I've seen what Dart can do. Mendoza and the kid from Oregon, they look like nice quarterbacks, and maybe they will be franchise quarterbacks. But didn't everyone think about Cam Ward being a franchise quarterback? And this is not a knock on Cam Ward. It's not. The Andrew Lucks just don't fall out of the sky. The Marinos, the John Elways don't fall out of the sky. It just doesn't happen. That's why they're generational. That's why we might see a guy like that 15, 20 years down the line. So, no, I'm keeping it 100%. I'll ride with Dart. Out of the top seeds in the playoffs. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, let me go. No, hold on. I'm sorry, Scott. Out of the top seeds in the playoffs, I can't help but feel the Patriots are the team that will have a letdown. I'm not sure the schedule they had backs up the record. Good team, not sold is all. I'm going to give you my thought on that. Brandon Marshall never went to the playoffs. That's wild to me, but I get what you're saying. Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver. Yeah. That is crazy. I remember, didn't he also, he finished his career with, I think he finished his career with the Giants, right? I think the Giants signed him. He was with the Jets and then Chicago. So all those years in Denver, let me see, 8-8, 8-8, 7-9, 9-7. Did they make the playoffs that year? 2006? No, that's crazy to think. That's a good pull, Brandon Marshall. Good wide receiver. Very good wide receiver. As far as your New England comment, so let me pull it up for you guys right now. Matt G in Newark chimes in Q. That's a hell of a pull from 86. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that playoff. I mean, the Giants were 14-2 that year. They only lost 2 games. They lost to Dallas early in Seattle. They lost to Dallas because Sims threw a pick to Too Tall Jones. they lost to Seattle, and then they ripped off like 14 straight wins. All right, so as far as like the seedings and what these teams are playing for, there are ways that Jacksonville can get home field advantage. Obviously, New England can get home field advantage. I think it's right there for Denver. And like I said, they're getting bailed out because the Chargers are going to rest their starters. But to your point, New England, depending upon the draw, they might be an issue. They might be in trouble. Let me just pull up a couple more comments, then we'll punch up John. Panthers win this weekend with a comeback victory. Steelers find a way to win. 49ers take the top seed. Oh, so all right, I like it. You guys are pondering what I laid out for you during the break. I do like the Panthers in this spot. Uh, I'm leaning towards the Ravens, and we'll get into that huge contest between Seattle and the 49ers. Hey, 5 o'clock straight up. Want to remind everyone 16 to book, 60 to play with this edition of On Cue. We are on multiple platforms. Don't forget, get social on X and IG, TikTok, Rich Quinones Mike. Also, we are on Kicks, Rumble as well. And I want to give you guys a shout out for those that tune in on the YouTube channel and you guys tune in religiously. We had close to 85,000 views over the last 4 weeks, actually 3+ weeks, including the holidays. So you guys have been absolutely fantastic. I greatly appreciate you guys chiming in as you typically do, and you guys stay in and locked in for well over 2 hours. So that's always appreciated. That college football. Oh, our next guest, he's got to be a little giddy. Our good friend John Bueller from Fansided. I mean, he's got to be giddy about Atlanta now. Not so much Georgia, but the Atlanta Falcons. But I would say happy holidays, happy New Year first and foremost, my friend. How are you?
Doing well, Rich. Woke up on New Year's Day with a tension headache. Didn't even drink. That was the worst part. So nice foreshadowing there for the Sugar Bowl for me. But
Yeah.
Falcon.
Well, hey, you're listen. We'll get into college. Your Falcons showing up now. Do you have a buyer's remorse? Would you have liked them to have started Kirk Cousins from the get go?
I've kind of come full circle, honestly. Yeah, I think the 14 years of experience that he has really opens up the relatively limited offense of Zach Robinson. When you have a guy who can go under center, spread the ball all over the field, as opposed to just throwing balls outside the numbers as hard as he can, like Penix. Look, Penix is immensely talented. I think he'll figure it out at some point. He is injury prone, but football is a game of injury. I'm just kind of of the belief like Cousins just seems to tap into a part of the passing game that I don't think Penix is quite there yet with.
That's fair enough. I mean, look, I thought the Rams were going to win that game after the blocked field goal, and then obviously some of the questionable calls. But hey, the Rams, I still think they're going to be there in the NFC. You saw some of the guys commenting in that huge test between Seattle and the 49ers. Top spot in the NFC is in play here. I mean, if I'm the 49ers, you're riding the hot hand of Brock Purdy. I don't know how that plays into that Seattle defense. You got CMC. He's about 100 plus yards away, receiving yards from 1,000 rushing and receiving. Just a phenomenal season. If May and Stafford and Lawrence and Allen weren't having the type of years that they had, you'd probably make a case for Christian McCaffrey as MVP of the league. But how are you looking at this game? Is this, you know, and as goofy as it sounds, let's just say, for instance, let's say Seattle wins this game. Can the 49ers still make a deep run in the playoffs, in your opinion, without having home field advantage? Like, if I were to say who needs home field advantage more come playoff time in the NFC, would it be San Fran or would it be Seattle?
It might actually be Seattle, and even though we know the this history and the story of the 12s and everybody up there in the Pacific Northwest, this is still a relatively new collective. This is the first year that Sam Darnold's been there. This is only year two of Mike McDonald. You just got Clint Kubiak from the Saints, so try to have as many things working for you, advantageously would serve the Seahawks. I think with the 49ers, like as long as they make the playoffs, like I would never rule them out making it to the NFC Championship. I just think that they kind of have it in their bones to do that. Now, winning a game of the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan, that's a different story. But as long as the 49ers make it and they are playing tough, physical football, complimentary, I think that they can kind of win really wherever they're seated.
Uh, I guess the question will also be for if you're a Seattle fan, Sam Darnold, right? When is, you know, you guys know I'm a Darnold guy. Like, when's the other shoe going to drop? And I feel as though if Darnold goes out and plays poorly, then the narrative is Monday. Well, see, this guy can't win the big game. I think he just needs to play within himself and not turn the football over. I mean, I know it's easier said than done. And again, this game, they're on the road. They're not intimidated. They're 7-1 on the road. The 49ers have a very solid home record. Seattle's laying 2.5, but the pressure on Darnold to go out and perform well in this game Saturday night. Where are you at with Darnold?
Um, there is some pressure. I don't think the pressure really amps up until we get to like the divisional round for him. Look, if Seattle goes in there and they win, they're going to get the number one seed and they will be playing, they'll get the bye and everything like that. And at that point, you start to wonder, like, is Clint Kubiak going to be kind of one and done in Seattle? This is a very weak cycle. And you kind of wonder, like, is he going to be a head coaching candidate out there? I know there will be more jobs opening up beyond just the Giants and the Titans, but you kind of wonder, like, if they've got like the right mix here, like the perfect chemistry there in Seattle. But you remove one piece from the equation, maybe it kind of goes away. I still like Seattle a lot here. I think that they're playing with a ton of confidence right now, but at the same time, Darnold in the playoffs kind of scares me a little bit. But this team has been cohesive the whole year long, so I'll give them that.
That's a fair point too. I know some teams are going to take the rest of starters. Look, it's still there for the Eagles to get that 2 seed. I mean, I would the 2 seed, you win a game, right? You win the wild card, you're hosting a divisional matchup. I mean, that's, to me, it's right there for them. Now, I think they missed a boat because they dropped 3 straight in the Dallas game and the Bears game, and you're talking about conference games. They've got Washington, even resting the starters. That's a game they should win, even though Washington, when Hurts was out there a couple weeks ago, played them tight until the second half, where you saw the defense start to ratchet up for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they also need the Lions to beat the Bears, which I don't think is going to happen. But are you of the mindset that you rest your starters late if you're pretty much kind of locked up where you're locked up? And the only reason I bring it up is, Buffalo, Josh Allen's banged up. Justin Herbert's banged up. I understand that. But for the Philadelphia Eagles, their offense has just been anemic all season long. And a couple of years ago, they were 10-1. Their offense was struggling. They lost their last five, last six to close out the season, and then went on the road and got absolutely hammered by Tampa Bay. So, sit, start, rest, or not rest them. What's your thought on that?
If you've got something to play for as seeding, you need to play your starters. You need to go out there. And I think even if you've got really nothing to play for, like if they're close to an incentive or something like that, give
A
them an
lot of them
opportunity.
this weekend.
Give them an opportunity to do that. But when you take it's always the Eagles. It's always this curious case with the Philadelphia Eagles. You mentioned the offense has kind of been anemic. You can't like give yourself effectively a mini bye, and then you're playing a Rams team, or I'm trying to think who would be the 7 seed, maybe whoever that would,
Packers.
Packers.
Yep.
You don't want to come into that game like completely stuck in neutral and completely dead on offense, because we see this in college football. Like if you take time off and you can't get it going,
Right.
you're behind the 8 ball before it even begins.
Yeah. I was looking at, I think it sets up really nice um, this weekend. I think Green Bay shot. I think Green Bay, they're limping towards the finish line here. I just don't see them making any noise. The injuries came at the most inopportune time for the Green Bay Packers. I think Chicago can certainly be a dark horse. Seattle, the Rams, the 49ers. And then you got Carolina and Tampa Bay for the NFC South. Tampa Bay basically shot themselves in the foot because they couldn't get out of their own way. But when you look at the Carolina Panthers, I pulled up their schedule when I was prepping today, going back and looking at some of their games. I can't recall a team probably over the last 15, 20 years that has an opportunity to make the playoffs, clinch the division, make the playoffs. And I just want to rip this off for you. They started 0-2. They beat your Falcons. They shut them out. They were 1-3. Then they won 3 straight to get to 4-3. From that point on, lost one, lost one, lost one, lost one, lost. I mean, I've never it's like boom, 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 boom. Now, logic would say, okay, you're going to go on the road and you're going to win against a team that you just played a couple weeks ago at home that you beat 23-20. But it's just goofy how the Carolina Panthers season has been. I mean, loss, win, and they're a win away. You and I liked them as a dark horse kind of up and coming team, but man, it's a different animal going on the road. Last game of the season, young quarterback against a proven veteran team and head coach that Tampa has.
I think that that's a tough spot for Carolina. I'm still going to take Carolina because I think Tampa is just dead in the water. I think that they've really the loss to the Falcons, where the Falcons committed like 19 penalties, like that's a soul crushing defeat. Everybody's pointing the blame at Todd Bowles, like he's cooked and everything like that. What I will say though is Carolina, I think, is well coached. I think the world of Dave Canellis, and he came over from Tampa by way of Seattle. But I also don't think Carolina is very talented. So maybe that's part of it too. Like the win loss. Like they can't sustain momentum. Like if they win the NFC South, they're going to lose to whoever doesn't win the NFC West between Seattle and San Francisco pretty handily at home in Charlotte.
Yeah, it's a nice story, and they're building towards something. But I'm wondering too, though, with what you just said, if Tampa Bay loses at home and they look poorly and they don't play well, and let's say Carolina beats them 27-13, are we going to have this conversation regarding Bowles going forward, or is he going to be a Black Monday casualty? Right, when we talk about these head coaches getting fired.
I would say his seat's pretty hot. I feel like he's got to win this. Look, you're just running through offensive coordinators in Tampa like nobody's business. Like Canellis is a head coach, Liam Cohen's a head coach. Byron Leftwich is doing good for a while, then he fell to pieces. Yes, I understand that Josh Grizzard is promotion from within. They gave Baker Mayfield a little bit more than he could probably handle as like the leader here. And I think teams kind of figured them out. But Bowles, for as kind of being kind of a more of a milquetoast, kind of middle of the line head coach, he's a fantastic defensive coordinator. At this stage of the game, when you're losing like 7 of your last 8, basically, you got to go in there and you got to make some adjustments on defense. I just don't think they have the personnel in the front 7 to really compete.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, some of these teams, they're look, some are coming in hot at the right time, and some of these teams are trending in the opposite direction. Now, I believe that Baltimore and Pittsburgh is so appealing and fascinating because either way, you might get a substantial changing of the guard within that division. So the way I've set it up, let's just say Lamar Jackson 100% goes out there, spits the bit, right? Then the talk is, are you going to move him in the offseason, even though he's got the no trade clause? What are you going to do with Harbaugh? Conversely, Pittsburgh, if Aaron Rodgers looks like an old man, with all due respect, and offensively they don't even show up, and you can blame DK Metcalf for that too because their offense doesn't have them. Tomlin, all right, you're not going to fire me. I'll resign. I'll take a year off, and I'll go into the booth for a year, and I'll recharge my batteries. Like I feel as though it's must watch for those scenarios that I just laid out.
It's going to be really bad for whomever loses.
Yes, that's exactly. In short, yes.
I don't think Baltimore has the stones to trade Lamar Jackson. I don't think that that's going to happen. But Todd Monken is just going to be like, you know what, I'm out of here. I can't work with this dude. And then they'll probably make John Harbaugh eat it because he can't do anything. He's just a figurehead at this point. Can't coach offense, defense, really special teams. He's just kind of been a patsy there for the last couple of years. And as far as the Steelers are concerned, look, everybody in Western Pennsylvania has these black and yellow colored glasses and will never see Mike Tomlin for what he is. He has them in unbelievable Stockholm syndrome. And look, no matter what happens with Aaron Rodgers, they'll make him eat it. They'll get rid of Arthur Smith, and then like they'll justify like, oh, we still won 9 games. Everything's great. You're the Steelers. You need to win. You need to win Super Bowls.
I think Aaron Rodgers retires. I think they lose. Aaron Rodgers retires. I think Aaron Rodgers already has one foot out the door. I think Aaron Rodgers still has shown that he's not a team player. He lacks the maturity in that regard. He's a mature individual as a man at times, but from a football standpoint, he throws players under the bus. And also, I got killed for saying that. Oh, DK Metcalf. Well, what if he gets suspended? Now, basically, you have no DK Metcalf. They didn't even bring it up, Nance and Romo, until the last offensive series against Cleveland last Sunday, mind you. Now you lose that playmaker. That's going to cost them potentially the division and a playoff appearance. So I think the handwriting's on the wall for Aaron Rodgers. And if I'm Baltimore, all I'm going to do is run Derrick Henry 25 plus times in this game. That's it.
Yeah. We're looking at a very real possibility where TJ Watt never wins a playoff game in Pittsburgh.
Well, you know what? So there you go. So I'm glad you brought that up because one of the commenters mentioned has, the all-time great players to never win a playoff game, right? Or, get to the playoffs. Now, he mentioned Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver, but there you go, Watt.
Yeah.
He's a great player, and you're right. He might never win
a
playoff game. Now, I do want to go back to what you said about Lamar Jackson. So I've been banging this drum. If I'm the Jets, I fire Aaron Glenn. They're going to roll over this weekend. It's a foregone conclusion. Drake May is probably going to want to put up 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, lock in the MVP, and they win, going away 28 points, right? 35-10. The argument can be made you don't want to do that because if you keep firing your head coach, this is not going to be an ideal landing spot, and there's no continuity and consistency. But I have seen nothing over the last month of the season from the Jets players, their effort in that defense or lack thereof, to make me suggest that Aaron Glenn can coach these guys up. They have flat out quit on him. So let's say they move on from Aaron Glenn. It's a mistake, kind of like New England and Mayo. You just rip the Band-Aid off, one and done. They have a lot of draft capital. I know Lamar Jackson has that no trade clause. But to your point about Pittsburgh, what if Baltimore loses this game? Jackson plays poorly. The narrative in Baltimore is going to be, we can't go any further with this guy. So let's get something back for him. Let's get a couple of, number 1 draft picks or first round draft picks, a couple of 2s. Jets will restructure the contract or take on some of that money. You don't see that at all as a scenario. You're basically saying if they lose, it's either going to be, we're going to keep running it back with Lamar, or we'll make a decision on Harbaugh.
There is a better chance that Lamar Jackson plays for the Baltimore Orioles than the New York Jets. I don't see that happening. I don't think he wants to go play on that turf with the way that he plays, just given the nature of how it just destroys sinew out there. But you are right, though. The team has in East Rutherford has no heart under Aaron Glenn. I thought he would take this seriously. I mean, he was a star player for them back in the day. Like, why are you ruining your reputation for what you did back in the 90s when the Jets were good? The question is, I don't know who you hire. I mean, at this point, like, do you say you want to bring Monken and you bring Jackson that way? That's the only way I can see it happening.
That's the other problem, because you don't have a this year's Ben Johnson sitting, and that's the problem I'm trying to, basically just come to grips with. As far as the Giants, like, I'm sorry, I don't want Antonio Pierce. I'd rather have Mike McCarthy, a guy that'll win you 11, 12 games. Maybe the kid Minter, maybe the coordinator with Green Bay. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to bring in Antonio Pierce. I don't think he's a very good head coach. This whole, we won a game on the road against Kansas City a couple years ago on Christmas. Yeah, because you ran the football. He didn't do anything to make you think that team or that franchise was going to turn around. And I like Antonio Pierce. He was a great player for the Giants all those years, but there's no Ben Johnson this year. And that to your point, maybe that's one of the other reasons that the Jets are probably thinking to themselves, no. We'll just bring him back and we'll give him one more year.
Yeah, 2 thoughts there. I think Hafley would be a fantastic fit for the Giants in this situation. This is a guy that won a lot at Boston College, was part of an Ohio State staff. BC's really hit the hit the skids since he left, and I think he kind of fits the Giants culture pretty well. I think he'd be a better fit than I think Pierce, even though Pierce did have a lot of success playing for the G-men back in the day. But you're right though. Like you got to be sure that you're going to get your guy if you move on. I mean, obviously Daboll had to go, but this is why the Falcons are probably not going to fire Raheem Morris. I feel like they're going to give him like another year. The only coach I think that they have to get rid of at this point is Pete Carroll in Las Vegas, just because you have the opportunity to get Fernando Mendoza and rebuild this thing, and you can't go in there just completely shot at head coach.
Yeah. I was hoping maybe an offensive minded guy with the Giants, and you go after, like, say, like a Brian Flores. Halfley, he's a New Jersey guy.
Yeah.
He's a North Jersey guy, and he's a young guy. He's 45, 46. And you're right. He's done a good job as defensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers. It'll be interesting to see how it kind of plays out, because we know they're going to be like, right now, I would say the Giants need a head coach. We know the Titans need a head coach. I don't believe the Saints and or the Falcons move on from their head coach.
No.
How about, here you go. How about Cleveland?
That might happen. I could see that like kind of being in the same vein with like the Raiders, or like this clearly isn't working. I could also see potentially the Bengals moving on from Zach Taylor.
Yeah, man, Joe Burrow is not making it easy when he keeps coming out with his comments. He's just more and more sounding like Andrew Luck.
No, he's Carson Palmer was right, man. The Bengals will break you, dude.
Yeah, well, I mentioned Carson Palmer, and he forced himself out of Cincinnati. How about the Texans? I am curious. We talk about some of these sleepers. Jacksonville, you got the Texans and the Colts. The Texans, obviously, with a very good defense. They're starting to come on at the right time. If you were to give me one or two dark horses from each conference that you think could make a deep run because they're playing very good football at the perfect time, who would those teams be? Like, start with the AFC.
I would say in the AFC, I do think has some intrigue here. They've kind of got like a nothing left to lose sort of thing. I think Jacksonville's kind of more in the drive. Jacksonville, I think, can have all 7 seeds if I'm not mistaken. But like they've kind of become like the sexy team in the AFC South, whereas Houston's been incredibly solid under the D'Amico Ryans, CJ Stroud era, and they were really close to beating the Chiefs last year. They fell apart, and eventually I think Stroud and Ryans will get the Texans to an AFC Championship game. Maybe that's the ceiling for this group, but that's a team that I think I wouldn't be sleeping on the Houston Texans in the AFC.
And then how about the NFC?
I thought it was the Rams, and then I saw them lose to the Falcons, and Matthew Stafford played a game like he was back at Georgia just showing off, and that's why he lost. He was horrible.
He was bad.
And the team that I would say, I can't believe I'm saying this because I never championed this team, I would say it's the Bears, just because this kind of reminds me a little bit of like the 03 Marlins, where like they don't know that they shouldn't be here, and I think that makes you incredibly dangerous.
Young and naive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, young and naive. And as a Yankees fan, you really didn't have to bring that up, but that's okay.
It's okay. I dig pain, man.
I mean, I hated that team, by the way, that Marlins team. Derek Lee, right? Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
Mike Lowell, who was just a Yankee killer. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and be a little more peaceful. All right. MVP. Is it Drake Mays to lose?
I think so. I think Stafford kind of gave it away in Monday Night Football last week.
All right. And then before I let you get out of here, a little college football. I loved Miami in that spot the other day. I got hammered for the pick, whatever. I did not see – I liked Indiana. I didn't see them blowing out Alabama. Some guys were chiming in. I want to ask you, because you're a college football guy as well. Do you feel Alabama quit yesterday?
I think it's just been a very painful season for them. And I think Ty Simpson's just getting ragdolled. I know people were getting on him, like saying like, oh, he didn't want to go out there. He took a big shot. The team can't run the football. Hiring Ryan Grubb was an absolute mistake. He was a complete joke of an offensive coordinator in Seattle. And unfortunately, Alabama has become Kalen DeBoer Washington, which is essentially Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma, and USC. You're Alabama. You don't have to win with your kind of guys. You got to win with Alabama's kind of guys.
Yeah, and very good point on the lack of ground game. I thought if they couldn't run the football, they were going to be in trouble. And their second possession of the game, they decided to go for it on fourth down. It changed the whole complexion of the game. But Indiana, Mendoza, the numbers again doesn't need to throw it 1,000 times. 14 to 16, under 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm going to ask you now. I know I asked you this 2 weeks ago. Then you look at more with Oregon, 26 of 33, 234, and I think one pick. But still, very good quarterback. Added in, I think, 20 or 25 yards rushing. Right now, you look at Mendoza, his stock obviously went up. I still believe if the Raiders have the number one draft pick, it's going to be Mendoza. So I'll ask you again, um, Oregon, Moore, or Mendoza, who has the bigger upside?
In terms of upside, and I would say range, I think Moore offers more variance. His high could be higher than Mendoza's because I think he's just a little bit more athletic. I think they're about the same age. Maybe he's a year
So
younger.
what we
But
not to cut you off. I'm sorry. I just thought of this. So obviously they're playing right in the semifinal. If if Moore goes out and lights it up and Mendoza struggles, is now the conversation going to be Moore's going to be the first quarterback taken?
that could be up for debate. I think it'll kind of be like, those handful of drafts there where you've got two guys at the top where you try to convince yourself that the number two guy is going to go on. But in reality, Ryan Leaf was never going to go ahead of Peyton Manning. RG3 was never going to go ahead of Andrew Luck. Marcus Mariota was never going to go ahead of Jameis Winston. That's kind of how I feel. But like they'll be right there. Somebody will trade up to get one of the other guys. And I hope that they both have success. I do think Mendoza is a safer player, but I think Moore has a chance to be slightly better. But again, I need to see him play a little bit more. This is really only his second year starting. He had like a couple of starts there with UCLA back in the day, and really didn't play it all last year, backing up Dylan Gabriel.
Interesting, because you're saying in one breath Moore's got the upside,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe pro ready, but Mendoza will go first. It's not that you're hedging a little bit, right? But I get what you're saying, and it's probably the perception Indiana undefeated, Heisman, Mendoza has got to go number one, right? Now, either way, the Jets or the Raiders, they appear they'll get their franchise quarterback. Arizona, we mentioned this. I think they run it back with Brissett. Miami's going to need a quarterback. I don't know if the Saints have figured it out, and Cleveland. I feel like I have a lot of from my time doing radio in Ohio. I get a lot of Browns and Cincy fans chiming in, and I don't know. Is it a large enough sample size from Shador Sanders where we can now take a step back and objectively say, give them some weapons. You got a pretty good defense. Go out, get a legitimate ground game, another wide receiver, keep him upright. Yeah, he can be a franchise quarterback. Or do we need to see more?
I think with the way the quarterback market is going, depending on how Ty Simpson's medicals check out, there may only be two, maybe three quarterbacks in the first round. Unless you're the Raiders or the Jets and you have to have one, and you're basically earmarking either Mendoza or Moore. If you're another team out there and you have, you're not certain about what it is. Like if you're the, like I said, if you're the Browns or if you're the Saints with Tyler Shuck, you're like, let's see what they got for a little bit longer. And if he's not the guy, then we will know because in 2027, it's going to be a much better quarterback draft class.
Yeah, and to your point too, if the Jets somehow, well, I think it's really it's pretty much the Raiders are in the driver's seat. But let's say the Jets got the number two pick, you're you're more likely to not fire Aaron Glenn, like you said, because now you got to bring in a guy and he's going to have his say when it comes to where they want to go. I mean, look, any head coach, you bring him in, he's not going to be dumb. He understands you need a franchise quarterback. So, I mean, that should be the easiest pick on the board. But to your point, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Mayo thing imploded so bad in New England, and he's kind of Glenn is kind of I don't want to say emulating or taking a page, but he's backtracked some of his comments with the players and the effort. He kind of goes back and forth with the media. It just has not worked out. I can't justify bringing him back because I've never seen a team play so poorly like I have over the last month of the season. I mean, the Jets it's a historically bad season, and that's saying a lot if you're a Jets fan.
I mean, you're at rock bottom as is anyway. I think Aaron Glenn said the highlight of the season is not having a kick blocked, so that's what the Jets got going for him right now. Yeah, it's
That's
no.
not good. What did you the other two games, the Georgia game was a crazy game. I
Yeah.
mean, I know for you, you're probably like, but that's as a fan to watch that game. I mean, especially if you played the over, that was an exciting game. I know it didn't work out. Where do you think that game was lost for Georgia?
Um, the coaches. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've thought with the 12-team playoff where you have to win 3 or 4 games in a row, depth is everything.
Right,
No, you
right.
have to you have to have outstanding coordinators. Like Kirby Smart's one of the 4 best coaches in college football right now, along with Ryan Day, Kurt Signetti, and the fourth coach is kind of up for debate here. But when you're B plus at best at defensive coordinator with Glenn Schumann, who's my age, and he does nothing. He just wakes up and does nothing. And then Mike Bobo, who's been Kirby's best friend since '95, since they played together. Like there was no player on the Georgia team that I thought like cost them this game. I think it was a poorly officiated game, but
It
like,
was.
but
There
when
were
you
some bad calls.
but like you shouldn't be getting worked by Pete Golding calling plays in the second game as head coach with Charlie Weiss Jr. and Joe Judge still hanging around before they go to LSU. It's just you have to have elite coordinators, and every team that won this past weekend did. Whether that's Indiana with Bryant Haynes on defense, with Shannon Dawson, Corey Heatherman in Miami. Um, but if you have a guy who's a weak link like Mac Leftwich with Texas Tech, Tosh the Poi is going to eat you alive. You can't be subpar at this stage of the game in the college football playoff and be that pedestrian coordinator.
Did you see enough from Chambliss to make you think he can be a
Yeah,
serviceable quarterback?
yeah, he's got something. I think he might be like a third round pick. He's still probably trying to fight for eligibility. He won a lot at Ferris State. He's won a lot here. Um, I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, he's like the next like Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins or somebody who comes out of that mid round sort of thing, but he's got something about him that I think translates pretty well to the NFL. I don't think the stage is like too big for him. I mean, that was the first time he's played in an NFL stadium in his life, and
Right, right.
he went out there and beat the one team that beat him during the regular season. Um, I could honestly see if Ole Miss goes on a run, like if they beat Miami and they get to the title bout versus Indiana or Oregon,
Fitting.
somebody might like get him to. Somebody might convince himself he's a first round pick just
Wow.
because of this run. I don't know. He's a fantastic player. I don't know if he's got the size or measurables, but he makes it happen.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Always appreciate it, brother. Anything? I'm sure you got a lot of college football. You'll bang out the pod. You got the Falcon stuff. When are you loading things up this weekend, or is that next weekend?
Did a podcast last night at like 1 o'clock going through just all the emotions of Georgia losing a horrible game. Going to be talking about the Falcon Saints part two. Going to see which team finishes the season on a fantastic winning streak. The loser may have to kind of reflect a little bit on what they want to do this offseason. But it's kind of nice for me to kind of enter the new year without actually caring about any particular game. Wait until baseball season when the Braves just drive me insane.
Yeah, well, welcome to my world, right? I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that from August on. But all right. Well, listen, great stuff as always. Appreciate you making time for the show. Busy show next week, and we'll start to get heavy. A lot more college football, and of course, NFL playoffs. As we are right there, wild card weekend, best weekend in sports. And John, always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
All right, you got it. There you have it. Our guy, John Bueller. Good stuff. I got a lot of comments coming in. I got to get some reads in. Don't forget Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off. Promo code BYP20. Also, Three Brooks Bourbon. Check them out. Also on our page, the logo will link you right to their cart, if you will, for their merchandise. And get ready with tea. Played Against Sports. They still got their doorbusters going with the holidays still intact. We know it's a new year, but you can save, especially for the kids going back to school, back to college, back to high school. They got all the merch, the youth sports equipment, and more. Two locations: 1450 Clements Ridge Road in Deptford, also in Mount Laurel. Quick timeout. We'll run through week 18. We'll get through your comments as well, and we'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. All right, welcome back, everyone. 5:40 on a Friday. We'll take you up to 6. We'll get through some more of these comments. I also want to go through these Week 18 games before we get out of here. Let's run through them as we typically do. We mentioned 2 on Saturday. You've got Carolina and Tampa, Seattle and the 49ers. Tampa Bay's laying 3. I tend to lean with you guys on this one. I think Panthers go on the road. I know it's a tough ask and a tough spot. You're going to get the best defensive effort from Bowles. We kind of know that, but the Bucks are banged up offensively. I think Bryce Young's going to make some plays. I think they're going to be able to run the football as well, and they're going to steal a game and upset Tampa Bay. I do like Carolina on the road. They already beat them a couple weeks ago. I know it's a different ask when you got a veteran quarterback and a veteran team, but I like Carolina in August. I'm going to take them in this one. Seattle and the 49ers. I'm torn because I thought all along the 49ers would win at least 10 games. I've been very impressed with Seattle and their defense. The narrative's going to be if Darnold stinks up the joint again. Now, you got to go all the way back. The first game of the season. I mean, talk about scheduling quirk. They opened up the season and now they're going to close out the season. Now, what did you learn early on? Darnold in that opener threw for $150, Purdy for 277. These teams are vastly different than they were 5 months ago. I'm gonna say Darnold's gonna make some plays in this game. Can the Seattle defense slow down Purdy and that offense? He's been locked in. He's been playing the best football of his career over the last 4 or 5 games. I'm gonna give the edge though to Seattle. I think they turn him over late in this game. Their defense makes a play. Could be a pick six. He's thrown a couple of those, but I do like Seattle in this game. And I think Darnold does just enough, and the road through the NFC will go through Seattle. And that is a tough place to play in. Saints and the Falcons both playing out the string. Listen, you heard it from our biggest Falcons fan on the show, right? John mentioned that in hindsight, maybe you should have you should have went with Kirk Cousins to start. Falcons laying 3.5. Robinson's a nice centerpiece. He's rushed for over 1,500 yards. He'll get in the end zone in this one. The Saints think they have a quarterback. Who knows? Falcons laying 3.5 at home. We talked a little bit about this game on Back Your Play. Browns and Cincy. So again, Joe Burrow offense, they can put up some points. They can move the football. Garrett a half a sack away from tying Watt and Strahan. I think he gets it this weekend. That'll probably be, your story if you're a Browns fan, and also to see how Shedeur Sanders plays. He's got an opportunity right now to finish the season strong, and that's all you're looking for in a young quarterback. Plus, they've got momentum coming off that win against the Steelers 13-6. Their defense played well. I expect their defense to have their hands full against a very good offense of the Cincinnati Bengals. 7.5. It's a divisional game. I'll take the Browns and the points. Packers and the Vikings. Again, the Packers are smart, even though Jordan Love passed concussion protocol. You don't play him. You don't start him. You sit him. I think the Packers are in trouble come playoff time. If they got to play the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to be one and done. The Vikings, they believe that JJ McCarthy can be the quarterback going forward. Uh, it's been a very rocky road and season for Minnesota. They gave up on Darnold. They let him test the waters. He cashed in with Seattle. And this is a team that won 14 games. They've been very disappointing, just like Detroit. These teams won 14, 15 games respectively last season. And obviously, this year has been a totally different season for those two teams going forward. Minnesota, they're going to try to regroup in the offseason. They've got some pieces in place. I'm not entirely sold on the quarterback, but I will take the Vikings in this one, actually laying a large number, 9.5. Cowboys and the Giants. Cowboys, we know what they can do at home. Defensively, they stink on the road. The Giants finally snapped their long losing streak. Giants at this point would love to close out the season with a win at home, get the fan base something to smile about. We know that's going to be overrun by Dallas fans. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff at MetLife. Dart, Robinson's going to want to get paid. Theo Johnson should be back for this one, I believe. I haven't checked the updated injury report, but I think Robinson right now, so pardon me, Robinson's been ruled out, and that just came down, and he's been a really good quarterback, a wide receiver for the Giants. He's had a breakout year, over 1,000 yards. I'm glad he got over 1,000 yards and he hit the incentive. So I stand corrected. Robinson's been ruled out. Is Theo Johnson's been ruled out. So, wow. So, no Robinson, no Theo Johnson. That means Hodges, Slayton, who the hell knows? I think Hyatt's ruled out as well or questionable. A little more pressure now on Jackson Dart. Maybe Slayton and Hodges make a couple plays. They'll run Tracy a little bit. I don't like the Giants at all, knowing now that Robinson and Theo Johnson. Dallas offensively, they're just too good, even though their defense stinks. I like the Cowboys in this one, laying the 3.5. Titans and Jacksonville, one of the largest leads and lines of the weekend. Jacksonville laying 13.5. They have a very outside shot at getting home field advantage. They must win, and then they need a substantial amount of help. They're going to be a tough outcome playoff time. That is a very high number. I can see them up 20-6, 27-6, and then maybe they kind of take the foot off the gas in this one. I like the Titans to actually cover. Colts and the Texans. Texans are laying 10. The Colts started off the season 8-2. They lose Daniel Jones, and they have not been able to just weather the storm. Phillip Rivers, great story, pretty much made it official. It will be his last game. I think it's great that he came back, got the insurance, played a little bit, inspired a young team, but they're just in a tailspin of losers of 6 straight, 7 of 8. And I think that trend continues. The Texans are getting very hot at the right time. And we always talk about, man, you don't want to play that team. Well, guess what? The Texans are 11-5, and they have won, 7 straight games. Their defense is doing a hell of a job. And CJ Stroud's starting to feel very comfortable under center and healthy. Give me the Texans in this one. The Jets are going to roll over against the Bills. Bills are laying 7.5. The Jets are just a horrible franchise. Buffalo should put up 25 easy in this one. Lions and the Bears. Disappointing season for the Lions. Bears are playoff bound. They're laying 3. I like Chicago at home. The Chargers sitting a lot of starters, including franchise quarterback Justin Herbert. Don't even worry about the line if you're a Broncos fan. Denver should roll. And if Denver loses his game, then you don't deserve to get home field advantage. The Raiders will figure out a way to lose against Kansas City and lock up the number 1 overall draft pick come April. Rams looking to rebound against the Cardinals. I like the over in this game because I think both teams will meet the football at 46.5. Dolphins and the Pats. Look for Drake May to probably rest midway through the 4th. The Patriots should go all over the Dolphins in this one. He might go 20 of 28, 250, 4 touchdowns, and then win an MVP. We know the Eagles are going to sit players as well. And again, for all those that clamor for the backup, here you go. Tanner McGee, let's say the Eagles put up 35 and Tanner McKee throws for 400 yards. Everyone's going to sit there and say, hey, you got to start this kid come the wild card round. Just stop already with the nonsense. I'm not touching this game at all. And then the Ravens and the Steelers. I pretty much laid it out. For you guys. I believe this is a just run the friggin' football, run Derrick Henry into the ground, run him into the ground, run him into the ground. I like Baltimore. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to struggle. I don't know what to expect from Lamar Jackson, but it could be the final game of Aaron Rodgers' career. And even though you guys are saying no, 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 it could potentially be the last game for Lamar Jackson in a Ravens uniform. You never know what happens if they lose this game in the offseason. Vince says, I think there will be a few notable headlines, but I start with Purdy outshines Darnold. Chargers surprise Broncos. Playoffs go through Duval. No. They need too much. Jacksonville needs way too much to happen, man. So right now, as it stands, I'll run through this for you. I feel as though I've done it ad nauseum, but it's always getting updated, right? So we're talking about what's left to clinch at this point. What's left? Okay. The Patriots are the AFC's champ. They can clinch the number 1 seed with a win over Miami, which they're going to do, plus a Denver loss. New England can drop all the way to the 3rd seed with a loss plus wins by Denver and Jacksonville. I don't think that's happening. They're the number 2 seed in the AFC with a win and Denver win. I think that will hold the form. Buffalo is basically in a precarious spot because they can finish with any of the AFC's 3 wildcard spots. They need help to move up from number 7. So the Bills, Texans, and the Chargers all finished 12-5 wildcard teams. Buffalo is going to be the 7th seed. If Jacksonville loses, the Bills jump Duval. Buffalo jumps the Texans, the Chargers if either lose while the Bills win. A lot at stake for those teams. Pittsburgh, 9-7. You lose to the Browns last week. Now you set up for Week 18 elimination game at home against Baltimore. A Steelers win gives them the NFC North title and the 4 seed. On the other side, the same is true for Baltimore. However, win and the Ravens are hosting the 5 seed in the wild card round, not the 4 seed. Jacksonville is 12-4. They can still finish with any seed but number 4, which is the AFC North champ. When Jacksonville beats the Titans, which they should, they will need losses by the Patriots and the Broncos to get the number 1 overall seed. It's not happening. I don't see Denver losing to the Chargers with so much on the line. And the Patriots, I just don't see them losing to the Jets. I'm sorry, Miami. I just don't see it. If you ask me the likelihood, Broncos, if you lose this game, you're going to kick yourself for years. No Herbert. Broncos are not going to play it close to the vest. They're going to try to put that game away early and rest some of their starters. Jacksonville is the 2nd seed with a win, plus a Broncos win and a Patriots loss, and will be the number 3 if all teams win this weekend. That is the more likely scenario. Now, it gets a little more complicated if somehow Jacksonville loses to Tennessee. Jacksonville will still be the 3 seed. If the Texans are also defeated, pardon me. They will still be the 3rd seed if the Texans are also defeated, but lose the AFC South if Houston wins. Jacksonville will be number 5 if the Bills and Chargers lose. Number 6 if the Chargers win and Bills lose. Number 7 if the Chargers and Bills win while Jacksonville loses. There's a lot at stake for Jacksonville. Houston, pretty easy. You can clinch the AFC South with a win over the Titans and a Jacksonville loss. The Texans are the number 5 seed with a win and a Jags win because they own the head-to-head victories. This is where the head-to-head comes into play in the conference over the Chargers and the Bills. A Texans loss plus losses by Buffalo and the Chargers keeps them at number 5. They'll fall to number 6 if one of the Bills or Chargers win in that scenario. Number 7 if the Bills or both are those teams that win. Denver, you win, you lock up the AFC, home field advantage. If you lose and Jacksonville wins, then that knocks you down to the 2 seed if the Patriots also lose. If the Patriots win in that scenario, Denver drops all the way to the 3rd seed. So the Chargers are going to sit Justin Herbert in week 18. And that, to me, that's where your doubt of them beating the Broncos. A win pushes them to number 5 seed if the Texans also lose. Chargers get the number 6 seed in a 3-way wildcard tiebreaker with the Texans and the Bills. That is just the AFC. Whew. You're going to be quizzed. Eagles lock in the NFC East. They need help to get number 2. They got to win and the Bears lose. That's not happening. They're probably going to be locked in 3. That's pretty much a 73% chance of happening. The Bears are number 2 with a win in week 18 and a Lions or a loss and a Eagles loss. So they beat the Lions, the Eagles lose. A loss plus an Eagles win knocks Chicago down to number 3. So there's a lot at stake because the Bears would love to get the wild card game at home and then get a divisional matchup the following week. Green Bay's locked into number 7. Doesn't matter what they do. They're locked in because they lost to Baltimore. Carolina, simplest path. Here it is. You beat Tampa Bay, you take the NFC South and number 4. Carolina can also win the division with a loss to Tampa and a Falcons win over the Saints. However, since the Panthers would win the 3-way tiebreaker among 8 and 9 teams, so we might get an 8 and 9 team in. Tampa Bay, flip the coin around, salvage the season, win. They would also need the Saints to beat the Falcons to avoid the 3-way tiebreaker if they were to lose. Seattle, they can lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC with a road win on the 49ers Sunday night or Saturday night. If they lose, they will drop to the 5 seed no matter what the Rams do. The 49ers, they are 12-4. So they basically clinched the NFC West last week. Now they can, well, they actually saved their NFC West chances last week. Now they can win the division plus get the top seed with a win over Seattle. If the 49ers lose, the Rams win over the Cardinals, the 49ers get the number 6 seed. Oh, wow. That is just a major drop. And then the Rams, remember now, this was a team that was 11-3. They're 11-5 right now. They can't win the West. They lost that opportunity last weekend. Right now, as it stands, if the 49ers beat Seattle, the Rams are the 6 seed. A 49ers loss opened things back up for the Rams with a win, and they would get the 5 seed. That is a lot to go through. A lot to go through. 12:45 here in Maui. 4th, Mai Tai. Deep Happy New Year, Q. And chat, 5 more days and back to Denver. There we go. Joey Boombat. Joey, have a salad. What's the weather like on there on the island? Waki Waki Ni. Broncos close in and out at home, Q. Top seed. What you called in August. Correct. What I called is operative. In August, Denver making the playoffs, Denver winning the AFC West, Kansas City missing the playoffs, Denver getting to the Super Bowl, Denver winning the Super Bowl. Now, I spit the bit when I threw in Washington in that conversation. Yes. That if you are spite picking and you want the worst matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's got to be against the Rams, 100%. Overcast and cool. Raining today and the next few days moving forward, 70 degrees. Well, I mean, it beats snow, right? In Denver, does it not? Kevin C chimes in QQQ. I can't believe the Giants won last weekend. Ha ha ha. I know you're still salty about that. I'm actually going to take them in the points. That's foolish. Do not take the Giants in the points. Don't. That's goofy talk. You don't want to do that. You don't. There's no Johnson. There's no Robinson. It's going to get ugly. Matt chimes in, you know, I'm a big time Seattle fan. I really can't stand that the narrative is that Sam Darnold's going to spit the bid. I appreciate you backing him for all these years. I need him to go out and have a really nice deep run. Look, Darnold was able to take, um, parlay his success last season and cash in. And that's a good thing. He's made the most of his opportunity. G chimes in. Q, what do you think the Giants are going to do? I anticipate they're going to start making phone calls Monday. Um, hmm. It's so funny. So this was just tweeted by Gary Myers, who covers the NFL. I like Gary Myers. He might have been listening in. He wrote, I would not be shocked if the loser of the Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh AFC North championship game Sunday night comes to mutual agreement with the team to move on. Could even happen if winner loses a wild card round. For me, either should end the Giants' search. They check every box. So I said this earlier in the week. I said it in the offseason that Tomlin was on the hot seat. But I'll paint the picture again for the new, you guys chiming in as we're getting ready to close it out. This game, the Steelers and the Ravens, it will have major ramifications on that division and those franchises moving forward. You're talking about 17, 18 years respectively with those teams. 17, 18 years respectively with those teams. And now, if for some reason Steelers spit the bit, Roger struggles, he'll retire, and then maybe they say, Tomlin, we're not forcing you out, resign. Harbaugh, Jackson, same could be said. The dynamic is very interesting. AD chimes in. Q, if Stefanski's fired, I will drive down to, well, you're going to drive up to Cleveland to pick him up. Polymarket Sports says the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, and the Raiders, Pete Carroll, are the most likely to be fired next. I really don't think that's a bold prediction, to be quite honest with you. Pete Carroll, we kind of knew Pete Carroll, it was going to be one and done. I mean, it just did not work out. Stefanski in hindsight probably should have went to Sanders earlier and not Dylan Gabriel. I still don't think that's enough to save his job. I just don't. But yeah, I see it. I definitely see Black Monday, Pete Carroll, especially if the Raiders, if they get embarrassed by a bad Kansas City team. Imagine the Raiders winning the game, losing the number 1 draft pick, and then friggin' firing Pete Carroll. I mean, you're going to fire him if they win the game because you just lost the number 1 draft pick, right? Monday Marcus chimes in on a Friday. Q, I'm all for resting the starters, but I agree with you. This offense is really scaring me. He's an Eagles fan. We saw it pretty much the whole season. I'm telling you, I can't wait for this kid to go out and go 20 of 28 for 265 and 3 touchdowns. And then everyone's going to sit there and say he needs to start the wild card game because everyone loves the backup, right? G chimes in. Q, is McCarthy starting the season finale for the Vikings? Yes, he is. He is. I did not bring this up. New England, we haven't really heard too much about the Barmore and Diggs situation, right? I mean, they're both facing felony charges. Not good. You don't want that distraction this late in the season with so much at stake. I mean, that could be a distraction for these guys going forward. Rank them. Who would you want as Giants' next head coach? Tomlin, Harbaugh, or the Hoodie? The Hoodie's done. He's out. Man. I mean, it's like you're lining up my sister and my 2 cousins to kiss. That's not good, Michael. Even if it's a 3rd cousin, that's still not good. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yeah, man. I think Tomlin's so overrated. I'm sorry. I just do. I would go Harbaugh, Tomlin, and the hoodie. I would go Tomlin, Harbaugh, and the hoodie. I don't know why there's so much hate for John Harbaugh. Sometimes you're at a place for so long. Harbaugh won a Super Bowl earlier in his career. It was his fifth year, but this guy, he's going to win 11, 12 games a year. What we hear about Mike Tomlin, Mike Tomlin, Mike Tomlin. Harbaugh's won 180 games. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11, 12 seasons. He's had 10 or more wins. Look, did he have a down year here and there? Yeah. He's had one losing season. And if they lose Sunday night too, in 18 years, him and Tomlin, apples and apples, they won Super Bowls early, consistency, you know, division titles, playoffs. They've had some bad playoff losses. If you're Harbaugh, it's so simple against the Steelers. Just run the friggin' football. Period. Yeah, I mean, listen, third cousin, right? I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying that again, you're giving me a list. And like I said, if you're going, your sister and your first cousins, I'll pass. If you're going your sister and your second cousins, I'm still going to pass. If you're going to go, your sister and your third or fourth cousins on your mother's aunt, sister side that you never see maybe once in 20 years at the family reunion, and hey, you didn't even know you were cousins, then, a little smooch. It's probably not the best ideal thing, but it's not, it's not the worst thing. Yeah, you didn't really give me anything to pick from, is my friggin' point. Oh, my goodness. All right, got to start wrapping it up. We are going to do a little rapid fire version on Saturday because I want to dive more into these playoff games, mix in a little of the betting proponent, and talk a little more college football. We'll do that on a Saturday. Download the Odyssey app. As always, search Coastal Sports Digital Network. You can get me on Rumble, Kicks, X. We're going to be also on TikTok, also on IG, also on Vimeo. We've got a lot more platforms coming up. I'm hoping we'll squeeze on Angel next week for a couple minutes. I know he's planning to get his show up and running when he's back in the saddle. He's got some big commitments going on with USF and building content as well. Hopefully, we'll get him on next week for a couple minutes. But I appreciate John Bueller. Also, as I mentioned, you guys have been unbelievable with the views, the organic growth on the YouTube channel. If you like the content, you want to keep supporting the show, the best you can do is subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I wholeheartedly thank you so much. 83,000 uniques over in the month of December. So you guys are fantastic. Appreciate the sponsors as well. Played Against Sports, Reebok's Bourbon, Fresh Roasted Coffee, Mom the Park Charity Fund, and also Get Ready with Tea. You guys are unbelievable. So I appreciate that. Finally, Man says, I guess because it's 6 o'clock straight up. I don't know what else he wants me to say. He finally chimes in at 6:03, but what are you going to do? So tomorrow, yes, little rapid fire edition of On Cue. We'll do the 2 playoff games. We'll dive into them. I dropped a new edition of Back Your Play. That's up on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. That'll air tomorrow, 11 o'clock on TV 48 WWON, Saturdays and Sundays. Lloyd will be back in the saddle with me. You know what? I think Lloyd texted me. Lloyd's a warrior. Lloyd wrote, hey, flying back tonight from Puerto Rico, want to sneak a BYP in early tomorrow morning. Lloyd, just rest. But we'll pop on Lloyd on a Saturday edition of On Cue. Talk a little NFL with him. All right. You guys have a wonderful Sports Friday. You guys are the best hanging with me for 2 hours. As always, as I mentioned, Monday to Friday, Eastern Time, 4 to 6, right here on SR 1029 FM The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network, Kicks, Rumble, X, YouTube, in the parking lot. It doesn't matter. We bring you some good sports talk Monday to Friday for 2 hours. Have a wonderful Sports Friday. Oh, and the reason you have to, or I would suggest subscribing to the YouTube channel, is because you'll get the notifications. So there's been some issues with getting notifications and not notifications. So if you subscribe to the channel and you put the alert on, then you will get the notifications when I am on the air. Now, for those that know how to read the room, I don't need to walk you through it. For those that don't know how to read the room, I got to walk you through it because I get a lot of guys commenting, "Hey, I didn't even know you were on." Yeah, you do. Check the notifications. That's all. Michael, appreciate you, my friend. And excellent contributions as always from half of the corporation. The other half, who knows? The other half of the corporation, I don't know what was going on New Year's. I don't know if guys were out watching the balls drop. I don't know what was going on. They were topping off a little fresh cup of Joe. I don't know. I don't ask. It's not my business. But there's some rumors going on that, you know, some I guess you can say the glue that holds the corporation together, they've been wandering a little bit. They've been running amok, if that makes sense. They've been nowhere to be found. I don't know. Maybe we'll address it tomorrow. All right. You guys have a good Sports Friday. As always, be safe, be sound. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be safe, be sound. Appreciate you tuning into this edition of On Cue. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. We will talk to you mañana on a Saturday edition of On Cue. As always, hasta luego, buen día.